Hello and welcome to my channel. My name's Ali and this here is Saturn, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about 5 myths about chinchillas. Now, I have done a myths video before. I did one a few months ago, so this is a part 2 because part 1 seemed to do quite well and people seem to like it. So this is a part 2. They're in no particular order, so let's just get started. Number 5. Now, this is a myth that is going away a little bit, but it is still prevalent out there. It is dying away, and it's mostly because of books like this up here, and that is that only male and female pairings can be housed together, and males and females cannot be housed in single-sexed groups. Now, this is complete rubbish. I have lots and lots and lots of female-only groups, and I have several male-only groups as well. So it really is complete and utter nonsense. And the reason why I think this myth still is out there is because I had a conversation with a work colleague of mine the other day, and I was talking to her about my chinchillas, and she said to me, "Oh, I used to own chinchillas," and I was just like, "Oh, that's great." And she said, "Yeah, originally I had one male, and I realised they're quite social, so I bought them a female." And I was like, why don't you buy a male to go with your male? And she was just like, "Oh, I didn't know you could do that." Anyway, to cut a long story short, her first female actually passed away due to an accident in the home. I'm not going to go too much into that. It seemed like she was still feeling quite guilty about that. So yeah, the first female died in an accident, and so she got another female for a male, and unfortunately this female did get pregnant and it died during childbirth, which was completely unnecessary because she didn't need to buy a female to go with this male. She could have bought another male, and she just said she just didn't know. She thought you couldn't house 2 males together. And I was just like, okay, this myth still does exist then. So yes, that's myth number 5. Number 4. Female chinchillas are more aggressive than males, and it is harder to bond female chinchillas than it is male chinchillas. Now, this one again is complete rubbish. It's based on the personality of the chinchillas, not on whether the chinchilla is male or female. But I do understand where this myth might come from. So when you have a male and female pairing, it is completely different to having a female and female or a male and male pairing, because you have that breeding behaviour come into play. And when the breeding behaviour comes into play and the hormonal behaviour of, say, a female chinchilla that's pregnant or a chinchilla that's in season, then you get that aggression start to build. So often when a fight breaks out within a female and a male pairing, it is normally the female that is the aggressor and basically saying, "I do not want this male chinchilla in my cage anymore, in my space." And it's generally because of hormones and also other factors, but it's a completely different dynamic to when you have females and females on their own, because you don't have that behaviour displayed. So in all honesty, I can say that once I've bonded 2 female chinchillas, of course there are female chinchillas that do not want to share their cage with any other chinchilla, much like there's male chinchillas that don't want to share their cage with any other chinchilla. But once a female chinchilla is bonded to another female chinchilla, in my experience, once I've bonded 2 females together, I've never once had to separate a bonded pair of females or a bonded group of females. They've always got along after that stage. Our males, on the other hand, I have had to separate bonded males because they've got into fights and they've got a bit territorial with each other, and those sexual maturity hormones are kicking in with males and they can get quite aggressive towards each other. So I've had to separate several pairs of male chinchillas, but I've never ever had to do that with a female chinchilla once they've been bonded. Because I had someone quite recently who bought a chinchilla off of us, and she said, "Oh, she had a female, she said, I want a male because I heard that it's easier to bond a male to a female than it is to a female to a female." And I've heard that it's very difficult to bond 2 females, and I've said on the contrary, I find it much easier to bond females together than I do to bond mixed mixed or males to males. So yeah, it's still out there. It's a myth. It's complete nonsense. Yeah, it's down to individual personality and not down to whether they're a boy or a girl. Number 3, now this one is a little bit controversial and a little bit spicy, and this one is that if you hold a chinchilla by the base of their tail will fall off. Now this is complete nonsense, since if you hold your chinchilla from the end of the tail or from the middle of the tail, yes, it will hurt your chinchilla, and yes, in extreme cases you could have the tail degloved, which isn't pretty or nice, and it's extremely painful for the chinchilla. But if you hold them at the base of the tail, that is the strongest part of their body, and it's called tailing, and it's how some breeders actually hold their chinchillas, and it's how the majority of show breeders hold their chinchillas. Now, it doesn't look nice. I'm not going to say it looks nice. The first time I saw a chinchilla being tailed was when I was going to buy a chinchilla off a show breeder, and he was showing me all his chinchillas that are available to buy, and he was taking them out by their tail and just holding them by their tail. And I thought to myself, pretty much as anyone else would think, oh my god, this is horrific, what is this person doing? But it's later I discovered that actually it is a perfectly safe way to hold a chinchilla. It's not a way that I actually hold my chinchillas. Now, I have never used tailing, so I've never used tailing at all. The way I hold my chinchillas is pretty much the way you see me holding them now. Yeah, but I understand now there is a safe method of holding a chinchilla. So I've seen quite a few videos on YouTube of people at shows grooming their chinchillas, getting their chinchillas ready, and they often hold them by the base of the tail, and in the comment section you just get a flood of hate for these people, saying basically you're hurting your chinchilla, you know, your chinchilla's tail's going to fall off, and it is actually a complete myth. It is a safe way to hold your chinchilla. However, I wouldn't recommend holding a chinchilla that way unless you've been shown how to do it, and personally I don't use that method to hold my chinchillas, but that's not to say that it isn't safe, because it is a safe way of holding a chinchilla. So that's my point, is the fact that please don't give these people hate. If you see a video where they're holding their chinchilla by the tail, I know it doesn't look nice. I had the same reaction as you guys when I first saw it, but I now understand that it is a safe way to hold your chinchilla. So number 2, and this is that chinchillas need loads and loads of time outside their cage every day for playtime. And this is not true at all. They don't need that much exercise. They've really got to limit the amount of time they have outside their cage, really, because it can be quite detrimental to their health to have lots and lots and lots of time out their cage. So I limit mine to about 30 to 40 minutes max outside their cage. And if you have a younger chinchilla, even less time than that, so 10 minutes max outside their cage, because they really can overheat and get exhausted quite easily. So yeah, so they don't need loads and loads and loads of time outside their cage. However, I do think it's lovely. It's one of the nicest things about owning chinchillas, is having them run around and have playtime around you. As long as it's in a safe environment. I am certainly not one of these breeders that recommends keeping your chinchilla in its cage its entire life. There are breeders out there that say absolutely no time outside their cage. I mean, with a younger chinchilla, you have got to monitor it very, very closely and really, really, really limit it. But as they get older, I'm not one of these breeders that says no time out their cage, no playtime. Playtime doesn't benefit them at all. I'm certainly not one of those breeders. They don't need loads and loads of exercise outside their cage every day. So number 1, chinchillas can absolutely never get fleas. Now, although it is extremely unlikely for them to get fleas, and it's quite rare for them to get fleas and mites, it can happen, and it generally happens around the nose and around the legs and toes and feet where the fur is a little less dense. So it's not likely, and it's extremely rare for them to get fleas. It is possible for them to get fleas and mites. Now, it can be due to other animals in your house having fleas and mites, or it could be because the environment they're living in isn't quite right, and you may have to look at that. But yeah, generally speaking, they don't get fleas, but it is a possibility. So if anyone says to you they absolutely cannot get fleas, it's a lie. They certainly can. But as I say, it's a very, very rare, which is why the myth exists, which is why in my video, for example, about why chinchillas make good pets, the fact they can't get fleas and mites, it's not the fact that I'm saying they absolutely can't at all. It's the fact that it is extremely rare for them. So yeah. So that is all the myths I've got for you today. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, because I make videos like this all the time. So this is goodbye from me and goodbye from this little lad.